What's up internet, Kevin here, and these are my favorite iOS games of April 2015. First up is Tiny Guardians, a game that clearly has its roots in popular tower defense app games, but does something a little differently. Instead of protecting a base from waves of enemies by setting up towers, you instead have a central character that's walking across the map and summons different guardians to protect her along the way. These guardians encompass all kinds of standard fantasy classes like fighters that tank enemies, archers and rogues to blow things up, and mages that have AoE attacks and can slow down enemies. The game is a little slowly paced at first because you find yourself just watching the character slowly crawl across the map, but as time goes on, it gets a lot more fast-paced and a lot better, especially on higher difficulties. My only real complaint with it is the fact that the in-app purchases are a little on the wacky side, because there's a lot of them that are purely cosmetic, but the pricing doesn't make sense, because you'll have alternate character skins that are maybe $1 for one class, but are $5 for another class, even though it's functionally the same kind of product. Thankfully though, none of the in-app purchases are necessary to enjoy the core part of the game. You can just buy it initially and enjoy the full experience, unless you absolutely have to have an alternative skin for one of the classes. Next up is the third entry in a series that has been one of my favorites on iOS, but I've actually never mentioned on one of these lists before, and that's SORCERY 3. Now admittedly, this game is extremely niche. If you have a background in tabletop games or choose your own adventure games, this can be a lot of fun, but if you don't, it can be a bit jarring, though it is a pretty solid introduction to the genre. The basic idea is that you're navigating your character through dangerous territory through a series of adventures, making decisions like when you should make camp, whether or not you should try to use a spell to solve a certain situation, how to solve puzzles, and deciding if certain quests are worth doing or just too risky. Now this is the third one and they are all linked storyline wise, but the plot is pretty bare bones and basic, so you could start at this one with really no problems. But I definitely recommend playing through all three if you can, because they are a ton of fun if you're into this kind of game. Now the other three games on this month's list are noticeably bigger budgets, starting with IMPLOSION Never Lose Hope. This is a fast-paced isometric action game focused on you controlling a mech. Combat is timing based, where you can either tap the screen repeatedly for fast combo attacks, or time between slashes in order to make slower, heavier attacks. You have a few other ways of attacking enemies, including ranged weapons and special attacks that you can customize with time, and between missions you can unlock different passive bonuses to equip your mech with. The story is nothing special for this game, but the devs did a great job on its presentation, and the game's graphics and soundtrack and controls are all wonderfully done. It's definitely one of the more expensive games you'll pick up by App Store standards, but if you're willing to throw down the money for it, it can be a ton of fun. Fourth up on the list is another big budget game for very obvious reasons, and that's Halo Spartan Strike. Now the Halo series is of course popular for its first-person shooter mechanics, but in order to adapt it better for an app game, this one is a top-down twin analog shooter, meaning that you use one analog to move your character around and the other analog to point which direction you shoot. The developers did a fantastic job of taking iconic aspects of the Halo universe and cramming them into this style of game. You've got all your recognizable weapons, vehicles, enemies, and armor abilities, and any fan of the Halo franchise will definitely appreciate this game. It does have a few weak points. I have experienced a crash here and there, but never really anything consistent or super often, and the game's controls could use a little refining, but both of these are things that will hopefully be fixed with patching, and even without it, they're easily counterbalanced by how much fun the core game is. If you're a fan of the Halo franchise, this is an absolute must-grab, and even if not, it's still worth at least checking out. Now, last up is easily my favorite game to come out this past month, and quite possibly one of my favorite RPGs to be released on iOS ever, and that's Steven Universe Attack the Light. Now, obviously, if you're a fan of Steven Universe, this is a game that you're probably already chomping at the bit to try out, but even if not, this is a fantastic simple RPG to try out. It's got a lot of mechanics very similar to games like Super Mario RPG and Paper Mario, where you use timing mechanics to make the most out of your attacks or successfully defend against enemies. Each of your teammates has their own unique attacks and playstyle, while Steven provides a support role by either healing them, giving defensive bonuses, or using items to support the team. The plot and dialogue in the game is really simplistic and nothing to get too excited about, though if you are a fan of the show, you will at least have a few references to get excited about here and there. Other than that though, the game definitely gets most of its strength through its really solid gameplay. It's really easy to learn, really easy to get addicted to, and honestly one of my favorite iOS games that I've played in quite some time. Add on to the fact fact that this is actually the cheapest game on this month's list at $3, and there's not much reason to not go out and at least try it right now, because it's easily worth the purchase. So there you guys have it, my 5 favorites. Now, to be perfectly honest, this month was actually a really tough one. There were a lot of games I really loved, and I had a tough time narrowing down which 5 to go with. There were a lot of other great games I didn't mention, such as Knot, Layers, and Devious Dungeons 2, games I'm sure you guys also loved. So make sure to leave a comment down below with what your favorite iOS games were of this past month. And as always, guys, if you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button to let me know, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys soon with another video. Until then, though, I'm Kevin Kenson, and I'll see you later.